Why do we need to recycle water? Because we don't generate much new water. Chemically, the process of generating water, which is basically taking hydrogen and oxygen and burning them to produce water, is not a process that happens a lot anymore. So in terms of our total volume of water in the world, yes, it is changing, but it's not changing significantly relative to the rate at which we are using or demand fresh new water. Now there are a lot of different areas of technology involved in water recycling, and we are later in the interview going to get to industrial use and the reclamation of sewerage. What about in the home at the moment? What sort of technology is being utilized in the home when we talk about water recycling? Well, very little on average. Typically in a modern home, we turn on the tap, we take a glass of water, we probably in turning on that tap flush 10 glasses of water down the sink. We take a shower, we use fresh water, we do a whole range of things, and there is nominally very little recycling of that. It goes down the drain and it goes off to a wastewater treatment plant. There is actually very, very little recycling at a local level. People don't actually say, well, I'm now going to take the water I just used, put it through a sophisticated process and reuse it and have a closed loop. It's not a closed loop in the home.
However, if you went to a library in the late 1300s or early 1400s, you would almost certainly find a book that was far more popular than the titles we read today. A book that purported to be a description of the world, a guide to traveling and distant lands in the BC area, and an almanac of everything that was just beyond the horizon. I'm not referring to Marco Polo. No, I'm talking about something far stranger and far less grounded in reality, the travels of Sir John Mandeville. A volume of medieval fantasy masquerading as a field guide about a man named Sir John Mandeville who, according to legend, set out from England in the 1330s on a journey that would take him to the Middle East, Africa, and Asia, though not the Middle East, Africa, or Asia that we would recognize here in reality. No, what Mandeville said had nothing to do with genuine distant lands. It's about what Europeans imagined was just outside their civilization's borders. It's about what lies beyond the mountain range that divides the places you're familiar with. It's about how the foreign appeared to medieval folks. And it's all shrouded in mystery, allure, and the fear of the unknown.
Paper mills had the worst of it for years as newspapers reduced pagination, went wholly digital or shut for good. The papers were able to hammer down the cost of newsprint from firms fighting for business as demand declined. price-taking paper mills suffered in silence. Many hesitated to shut massive machines costing hundreds of millions of dollars. That hesitance has disappeared. Mills are taking out newsprint capacity and diversifying. Norsk Skog, a Norwegian pulp and paper firm, said in June it would close its 66-year-old Tasman mill in New Zealand, for example. Many mills are converting machines to make packaging for e-commerce. UPM, a Finnish firm, announced this year the sale of its Shotton newsprint mill in Wales to a Turkish maker of containerboard and packaging. For JCS Volga, a Russian mill, newsprint used to account for 70% of production. Now half of what it makes is packaging.
It now seems likely that the earliest printing presses were, in fact, simply the common screw presses used for crushing oil seeds and herbs, or even for doing more domestic chores such as pressing fabrics, adapted for printing. Other large wooden presses, such as those used for crushing the juice from olives and grapes, known as beam presses, had been around for centuries, but proved to be unsuitable for printing due to their size and their necessarily heavy pressure. Most presses of this type work on the simple principle of direct vertical pressure, controlled by a central screw at the lower end of which was attached a flat board, what later became known as a platen. We know that many of these earliest printing presses were still in regular use in the 17th century, and the basic design remained almost unchanged until the 19th century, when they were replaced with iron presses.
The way I look back in the past is by using the fossilized remains of deep-water corals. You can see an image of one of these corals behind me. It was collected from close to Antarctica, thousands of meters below the sea, so very different than the kinds of corals you may have been lucky enough to see if you've had a tropical holiday. So I'm hoping that this talk will give you a four-dimensional view of the ocean. 2 dimensions, such as this beautiful two-dimensional image of the sea surface temperature. This was taken using satellite, so it's got tremendous spatial resolution. The overall features are extremely easy to understand. The equatorial regions are warm because there's more sunlight. The polar regions are cold because there's less sunlight. And that allows big ice caps to build up on Antarctica and up in the northern hemisphere.
It is about 100 years since that great Canadian-born physician Sir William Osler, Regius Professor of Medicine in Oxford, complained about the increasing influence of the pharmaceutical industry on the medical profession. He would be turning in his grave at the way the industry now dominates doctors' prescribing habits. It does this not only by direct and indirect pressure on the doctors themselves, but also by encouraging the public to ask for scripts.
Dave Hackenberg, a beekeeper since 1962, can usually tell what killed his bees just by looking at them. If they're lying on the ground in front of a hive, it's probably pesticides, he says. If the bees are deformed and wingless, it's probably vampire mites. But last fall, Hackenberg saw something he had never seen before. Thousands of his bee colonies simply disappeared. He was in Florida at the time, pulling the lids off some of his commercial hives. To his horror, they were all empty.
Decorating can be one of the most exciting times during your experience as a homeowner. Not only are you creating the essence of your home, you are also adding your very own personal touch and style. One of the easiest ways to add unique spice to an ordinarily drab room, incorporate exceptional work. Many of my clients are simply amazed at how effective a colorful painting can be at bringing new life to a room that has become tired, says Matthew Johnston, an artist known for his vibrant tall tulips paintings. However, as easy as it sounds, purchasing and hanging a painting on the center of the wall isn't going to cut it in most cases. Johnston offers his advice to ensure your next painting purchases work with your room rather than against it. Large high-traffic rooms for family rooms, living rooms and rooms off the kitchen. Johnston recommends figurative diptych paintings to create a story within each area. Diptych paintings consist of 2 separate panels that hang together and work as one. In my figurative diptych paintings, each figure has their own physical space, yet they are a couple, says Johnston. Their face is cropped, and viewers can imagine themselves as being in the painting. The viewer has to look to other parts of the painting to imagine a story. Each individual person can create a different story for the painting.
If you keep up with the news at all, you know that hacking computer networks of companies, both large and small, means big business. Like any other commodity, personal data and information can be priceless. According to ZDNet, a website that provides 24/7 news coverage of tech trends, 2014 alone saw more than 1 billion personal records illegally accessed, including health, financial, email and home address data, and other personal information like social security numbers. That's up more than 54% from the year prior, according to industry experts, and there's no sign that those numbers will be slowing down anytime soon. Case in point, just this year, more than 191 million US voters' information was compromised from an incorrect configuration in the voter database. Still not convinced? Anthem, one of the world's largest health insurers, was hacked this year, and 80 million US citizens had all of their personal information leaked.
Japanese imports like Pokémon and Dragon Ball Z have been entertaining American children for over a decade, but Japan's most iconic managed character, child robot known as Astro Boy, has only recently been rediscovered by Americans' audiences. Often called the Mickey Mouse of Japan, Astro Boy was created in 1952 by Tezuka Osamu, Japan's most influential cartoonist. Tezuka's characters, with their large eyes and expressive faces, established the drawing style used in all anime today. But it was Tezuka's storytelling that made Astro Boy resonate with audiences around the world. Astro Boy reimagines the story of Pinocchio in a futuristic setting. Although Astro Boy is a powerful robot with components that help him protect the Earth, including twin machine guns and his butt dash, he is, at heart, a little boy with an innocent worldview.
Many older adults experience feelings of loneliness and isolation as they age, but pets can provide the championship and love seniors desire. A new survey conducted by Home Instead Incorporated, franchisor of the Home Instead Senior Care Network, found regular interaction with animals can help to reduce feelings of isolation and loneliness in older adults. The most frequently cited benefits of pet ownership are company, comfort, unconditional love, entertainment and
Making a commitment to your professional fitness doesn't have to take a bite out of your bottom line, either. The Professional Development Academy, an online leadership training company with top-notch faculty from business, industry, and government, offers programs in areas including high-performance leadership, frontline information technology leadership, and maximizing your personal brand, all for a fraction of the cost of a traditional MBA program and easily accessible at your
The comics I show you with lots of people chatting around in a room is a form of description. We use different kinds of methods to describe a situation. Sometimes we have to use visual description, particularly when we do not witness the scenario. I was born during the Second World War and my hometown is London. For example, when one asked my mother about the war, one always asked her, you have mentioned this or that. When you talk to me, when asked her about the shelter, I asked her what the shelter looks like and when did you do the shelter. From her response, I could get more visual evidence as I can to write my book. The comics I show you with lots of people chatting around in a room is a form of description. We use different kinds of methods to describe a situation. Sometimes we have to use visual description, particularly when we do not witness the scenario. I was born during the Second World War and my hometown is London. For example, when one asked my mother about the war, one always asked her, you have mentioned this or that. When you talk to me, when asked her about the shelter, I asked her what the shelter looks like and when did you do the shelter. From her response, I could get more visual evidence as I can to write my book.
In the 19th century, few people could afford to travel abroad. It was expensive and there weren't the mass transport systems that we have today. So curiosity about foreign lands had to be satisfied through books and drawings. With the advent of photography, a whole new dimension of reality became available. Publishers were not slow to realize that here was a large new market of people hungry for travel photography, and they soon had photographers out shooting the best-known European cities, as well as more exotic places further away. People bought the pictures by the millions, and magic lantern shows were presented in schools and lecture halls. Most popular of all, however, was the stereoscopic picture, which presented three-dimensional views and was considered a marvel of Victorian technology. In the 19th century, few people could afford to travel abroad. It was expensive and there weren't the mass transport systems that we have today. So curiosity about foreign lands had to be satisfied through books and drawings. With the advent of photography, a whole new dimension of reality became available. Publishers were not slow to realize that here was a large new market of people hungry for travel photography, and they soon had photographers out shooting the best-known European cities, as well as more exotic places further away. People bought the pictures by the millions, and magic lantern shows were presented in schools and lecture halls. Most popular of all, however, was the stereoscopic picture, which presented three-dimensional views and was considered a marvel of Victorian technology.
The project is divided into 4 main sections. The project is divided into 4 main sections.
Art is an expression of creative skills and imagination. Art is an expression of creative skills and imagination.
The poster of this play is hung in the large lecture theater. The poster of this play is hung in the large lecture theater.
If you like our video, kindly subscribe our channel and also press below bell icon. Thank you.